Okay, so real quick before the panel discussion, we want to just talk about must-haves, and this could be scary for some. Contrary to popular belief, technology is your friend. So interestingly, the church pension group puts out these cute cartoons, and they're done by an Episcopal priest, and you actually have access to them if you ever want to use them for anything. But it's like sort of funny, you know. It looks like the priest or the rector was killed or died because he used PowerPoint within some type of service. We have to step away from that. We are moving into a more visual world, and so whether it's in your main service or another service, you have to provide some type of alternative or more visual, engage people more visually, okay? Whether it's PowerPoint or websites or things like that. And so if you've seen through our presentation, we've tried to engage you visually with pictures, with video, with a PowerPoint and whatnot, just to sort of give you an example. And it's not that hard, okay? There are people, your kids probably can help you, or your high school kids from school can come in and probably teach the folks in the church if you need to. The other thing is, and this is the reality of life, the internet. I mean, that's where people are going for information. That's where they're connecting. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's a lot of kids, believe it or not, are starting their own blogs. They're starting, there's Tumblr, there's WordPress, there's so many things out there. Now it's Instagram. It's, taking pictures and commenting and, all this kind of stuff. So it's visual, and that's the way they're communicating, and that's the way they're getting around. So you got to get, if you don't have the skills, get the skills, because trust me, it's your friend. It makes your job so much easier. And all these kind of work together too. You can embed YouTube videos on Facebook, and you can use your constant contact. Like I send out a constant contact message, and I can instantly share it right on the Facebook page, send it to everybody in here, as well as post it on the web page, so it's your friend. And it's not that expensive, and they have, for your churches, they have nonprofit pricing, and it's based on the size of your church. So I think for St. Gregory's, I think we pay something like, it's under $200 for the full year for everybody that's here. So it's not expensive, okay?
I was just going to say real quick on that, on the internet. People they're selecting where they're going to go to worship too, based on what a website looks like and what the front page is. So the video. I had a friend who just moved to Utah, and before she left, she already found the church she was going to because she watched a video that was on the front page that had preaching from the pastor of that church, and she already was set where she was going. She wasn't even going to go anywhere else. So that's where people are finding their community, and just going straight there.
And also the website design, you can find economical ways to do it. When Micah set out to design this website, we still had to engage and pay for an online service for that, but he found it, and I'm not going to remember the name, but if you email me, I can find out for you and send it to you. And I think it costs us $75 a year.
Yeah.
For that service,
it's easy services that provide templates, and then you just plug in your information and upload your pictures and stuff. So it's fairly easy nowadays.
But it was a real creative template. It was not the norm.
There's a really great. There's something called Joomlancer.com and Freelancer.com, where you can actually hire someone. We did our church website at St. Stephen's. We redid the whole design of the website for $80.
I mean, it's out there. You just got to look and connect with people. So this is a great opportunity to talk to other churches, get to know other folks who've done stuff, and connect around that stuff, okay?
And if I can do it, you can do it. I mean, believe me.
This is Wendy, this is you. This is another cute cartoon about contemporary music. It's that old argument with your organist. The organist never wants to play anything.
So what happened was when Unplugged started and they hired Charles as the musician to come in and get the band going, they did try it at the beach and hauling all the equipment over to the beach, and some people, it was a fabulous idea because people would come that were just walking down the beach and they would learn about the church, but the amount of people that came was really not commensurate with the amount of work of hauling all the equipment plus the salt air and the sand and all that. So then they moved it, and Marty, our rector, was and the vestry were really daring because they moved the service around until they found what fit. So it also, with the services, we've got to be able to risk. And you'll hear back from people about it, but finally 11:45 is what hit. So for the music setup, between the 9:30 service and the 11:45 service, we finished 9:30 at about 10 of 11. And so we have a load-in crew that's assigned every week, and they load in all the band's equipment before the 11:45 service starts. And believe me, it's a feat of a miracle that they can do it. Plus, they have to do a sound check in that time. So it's really important to hire people that know what they're doing, that's professional. It's not about a guitar and kumbaya anymore. It just isn't. I brought with me several copies of an article that Charles wrote for the Diocese of Southwest Florida. He and the band, which is called Live Hymnal, went over there and did their convention. And he wrote this this article was published. It was an interview by him, of him, and it's really excellent. But music is a huge part, and the main thing I want to say is that it needs to be what's called indigenous. It doesn't mean that you have to go out there and have a band like another church has. Do it from the music that your own community resonates with in whatever cohort you're seeking, for 20s and 30s in your particular church. And a lot of the musicians, two of the main musicians in Live Hymnal were youth that from our youth band had grown in the church, and one who now, Charles said the other day, she's probably going to surpass him. He's not going to be able to teach her after about a year. She's learning so much and now is going to be a professional musician. So she comes, and then another one is part of the percussion part of the band, and she's a youth. And now I think they're both juniors in high school, and they play with the adults in this in the Unplugged band. So be organic in the way you choose your music, but make it live and make it professional as you can. And you can ask members of your congregation to underwrite it if music is important to them too.
So talking about some of the ways we collaborate at these different levels, I definitely wanted to touch on the Diocese of Southeast Florida Young Adult Ministry and the great stuff that Michael and Daniel have already done the past few years in trying to engage that and start that and kind of launch something that is larger than just an individual church, but this is a community, and that Angela's doing as well when she started SIA, and that there's a way for all of us we're in this kind of infancy, and if all of us in the room and all of us that we go back to, that we can continue to connect at all possible levels. The diocese organization is hopefully going through a really wonderful kind of transition to becoming wider engaged, and I've been speaking with Daniel and Michael and engaging people both in the young adult community and those that are interested and engaged in the young adult ministry but may not be in the age cohort. So working to try and get a council of young adults, and then a advisory board that is then made up of people who are doing the work or want to do the work or want to support it, which is including already Wendy and Angela have agreed to help with that and facilitate that. And another part of engaging at that larger level so we can all come together is trying to do, I know that for the campus ministry, particularly for those people that have been engaged in the Episcopal Church and are trying to segue into that stage, that there's some talk now about trying to get people to go to a vocari and try and start that up in this diocese, so that there's different demographics and different populations. So the people I see are not necessarily going to end up in a vocari type situation because they're just figuring out what the Episcopal Church is. But there's a huge demographic of existing people. Oh, it's like the happening for the next generation.
So it's a retreat.
Like Curcio
like Curcio.
Discern your vocation.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's more, and it's geared towards that, the early 20s, mid 20s age for folks that are discerning their life, where they're going. I mean, it's perfect for that age group.
Yeah.
And it's called vocari, which means, does that mean seeking or?
I think so.
Vocation?
Yeah,
Vocation?
Voice?
I don't know. But I went through it when because vocari was pretty active, and it was pretty transformational for me. And then I went back and I led several of them afterwards as well. So it's a nice retreat, and it's
Yeah, nice way to, again,
Yeah.
engage at that larger level.
It's never been in this diocese, and we want to get to the point where we have it, and it's for young adult, for that
So
group.
hopefully within the next year, that may be something on the horizon. Some of the things that I've been trying to do at a local level, but that I hope open at a larger level, is build some kind of events, programming, and also spiritual experiences and rites of passage. You know, I think rites of passage are critically important, and there's been, when I get feedback from people, I've heard feedback, it's the idea that there's, you know, the church fulfills people with a lot of programming up to 18, and then until you get married or have a kid, there's that big range where not necessarily there are any rites of passage. Vocari is one avenue for that, but I think especially for those people that are spiritually seeking and may not know where they're going yet at all, I wanted to create kind of a spiritual retreat that was really just about the personal intimacy, more of a spiritual direction type experience. So we're going to be doing that for the first time in early June, end of May, so May 30th to June 2nd at the Duncan Center. That'll be open to all young adults, anybody's 18 to 40. Another effort, this is a bit of outreach and as well young adult ministry, again, getting people engaged at both levels. We're doing this actually next weekend. I'd love for anybody to come who wants to. It's free. There's a suggested donation of $10, but nobody has to pay. It is an event for awareness and support and healing around issues of trauma, addiction, suicide, mental health issues, which become huge going into the holiday season, particularly for young adults, particularly for people who aren't engaged, community of faith, or in community in general. So I really wanted to create something that was more than, it's kind of the anti-conference. It's not really a conference where you're educationally learning things. It's a conference where everybody's meant to engage in community, to have healing experiences. So we'll have speakers that are both professionals but also survivors of various things, and we're going to have yoga, mindfulness practice, acupuncture, all kinds of things going on all day long that are meant to engage that. And a lot of our young adult seekers are volunteering. So again, it's all levels, you know. And so that's another thing, diocese-wide. And then just a couple other things in the area I wanted to mention were Broward Emergent Cohort is a really cool and interesting, it's all age group demographic, but you can find them on Meetup. And they meet once a month and have dinner and talk about, they're from all denominations, about emerging thought, emerging philosophy. It's a really cool, engaging group. If you're looking for places to get ideas and energy from. And then also in the summer and end of December, there's a Wild Goose Festival, which is part of the emerging philosophy kind of, I call it Wild Woodstock for God, or some people call it Burning Man for God. It's a faith, justice, and film festival, and there are speakers, there are bands. It's amazing. It's for everybody of every age. Families come, people that are retired, all the way down to young adults, but I think it's a great way to engage, so I'm hoping to get a road trip. It's in the Quarry Hills of North Carolina. So again.
So have you guys heard of Fran McKendry? So he does a lot of stuff at Canoga, and he actually was, he taught Charles Milling. He was an understudy.
He still is teaching Charles Milling.
He was an understudy of Fran McKendry, Charles Milling was. But anyway, Fran's actually really involved with Wild Goose. And Philip Newell, have you heard of Philip Newell, the one who does all the Celtic prayer books and whatnot from Iona? They bring in, the Wild Goose actually comes from, the Celtic spirituality and from Scotland, Ireland, whatever it is. But anyway, so they bring on a lot of that spirituality and going back to ancient practices and music and whatnot. So there's a key component in the Wild Goose Festival as well. So.
And all of that emerging philosophy. So Richard Rohr,
justice-oriented, yeah.
Everybody,
yeah.
Jim Wallace, everybody that is in this conversation that I think we're having in a young adult ministry level are at this festival. I still have to go, and I'm in the guy.
It's like Canoga for young adults, basically.
Exactly, and just so large. Yeah. It's huge. About 1,000 people or over 1,000 people went this past year, and I'm in early talks with the guy who founded it. He started it. He is from Ireland, but he lives in North Carolina, and we may start a retreat version of Wild Goose down here next winter, January of 2014, but we'll see. I'm not sure where that's going at.
I just wanted to touch on peace. It's and maybe you could touch on EPF also. Oh, yeah. Peace is a way of justice and righteousness ministry in our diocese. You know, a huge part of what young adults want to do is to be out in the community. Our church is not a member church yet, but we're considering it. I have flyers on the other side for you to find out about it. Virginia Donnell is a young adult that has been coming to Untapped, which is our group that meets every other Friday night. She's 28, I think, and she's the local rep. They are doing work for youth crime, wage theft, jobs and unemployment in the Glades. education, healthcare, affordable housing. But what they do is they get a whole big group of people to show up at a commission meeting and say, look how many people are here that want wage theft to stop. And they've done work for a year or two on researching and working with the officials, and they're really implementing change. It's slow, but real change is happening through this organization. So I offer that to you.
It's basically
it's on the
community
table.
organizing through churches, and it's multi-denominational. So all the churches in the county get together to be involved in it.
And interfaith, actually, too. And interfaith, actually,
there's synagogues, and there's temples, and
Yeah.
Is it more than just Palm Beach?
Yes, there's one in Broward County called Bold Justice. They're all from the same organization, and I forget what the name of the one is in Dade County.
It's all under something called DART, which is Direct Action Training Program, maybe, something like that, which is nationwide. And in every area, it's called something a little bit different, but they're implementing real change locally. So it's a national organization, but their work is local, and they're really doing amazing work.
And then on the justice mission angle from a national level, I just got back where I went early this fall to the Episcopal Peace Fellowship retreat in Chicago. Now, the Episcopal Peace Fellowship is doing a really strong job of engaging young adults and creating programming that include justice missions for young adults. This was a retreat about it, so we were at a Senecal Retreat Center, and it was amazing and phenomenal. And I met people that were passionate about disability rights, about LGBT rights, about minority issues, about young adult ministry as an outreach, actually, was a component of that. They have a wonderful website and community. They do urban pilgrimages every year where people meet at particular places, but it's framed with worship. We were talking about the idea of worship also being a component of ministry outward, that feeding the internal as well as doing the external. And I'm going to be a lay chaplain at one of their retreats this spring. I'm not sure which location yet, but they're going to do in Texas, in New York, Louisiana. So it's a really cool way to engage in that justice mission in the Episcopal Church at a national level, and also with other young adults that are doing the same thing.
What's the name of it?
Episcopal Peace Fellowship. If you Google that, the website will come up. And also at a national level, real quick, the Jason Sierra and the first video we watched, which is Campus and Young Adult Ministry. He's wonderful. I spent like an hour and a half on the phone with him talking about ministry stuff. He's based out of Seattle, so when we got off the phone, he said, call me anytime if you want to talk about ministry stuff. I'm really excited. There's stuff happening in Southeast Florida. I want to hear more. The Voices event, he asked for the recording of it when it's done. We're going to send him this when it's done. So there's also supports in that kind of way, and he's a really accessible support. I mean, he was just a very wonderful person, but also knows everything that's going on at that national level that we may not always know.
And the other one is Tom Brackett with the National Church. He does emergent church and church planting, so it's not only with young adults or 20s and 30s, but I've gotten to know him really well, and he knows everything that's going on in the Episcopal Church with any kinds of these services and emergent communities. And he has there's 2 different online AV conferences that he has, so it's an audio-visual engagement. The first Fridays of every month at 4 o'clock, you can be in conversation with other people around the nation that are doing unusual services, and not just services, but unusual gatherings in the emergent movement. So he's a huge resource and really wonderful. So I do bibliography, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and there are resources. We all brought books that we love, that have great information. There's sheets and articles, so go and don't leave the books, but feel free to take a picture of it with your phone or jot down the information, because they're all really great resources back there for worship, for, starting stuff. So feel free to take a look at it.